Welcome back to Merkle and Plummer's Beginning with New Testament Greek. Today we're looking at Chapter 8 on prepositions. Prepositions we'll be covering in English and Greek, their meaning, the form variations that the Greek can take, how to see them in compound verbs, and the usage and our chapter vocabulary. So first, let's take a look at our prepositions in English and Greek. Our prepositions in English are indicating a relationship by a word. So the word in this sentence, the apple is on the desk, it's indicating a relationship between these two objects, the apple and the desk. The word following the preposition is the object of the preposition. Together, on the desk is called a prepositional phrase. While prepositions in English always have the same meaning, prepositions in Greek can take different meanings depending on what noun they're modifying. In Greek, the object of the preposition can be in the genitive, the dative, or the accusative, and that may change the gloss that we use for that word. So let's look a little bit at the different meanings. Like I said, the meaning of the preposition is based on the case of the object. So we need to look at what word follows this preposition. Here we have dia to hieru, and hieru is in the genitive case. So dia plus the genitive case is translated through. So this would be through the temple. Some prepositions only take one case, and some can take two, and a few can take three. Here are the prepositions that mercifully take just one case. Apa you'll find in the genitive, and it means from. Ek in the genitive, and it means out of. Ein in the dative, it means in. Soon in the dative, and it means with. Ace in the accusative, that means into, and pros in the accusative, meaning to or toward. This next set of prepositions can take two different cases, and I like how this shows it in the orange and the red. Using colors can help you to memorize these, and the work of memorization that you do for these words will help you in the future when you're trying to translate. So dia can mean through or because of, depending on if the word that follows is in the genitive or accusative. Same for kata, against or according to. Meta can mean with or after. Peri can mean concerning or around. Uper, on behalf of or above. And upo, by or under. And lastly, here are a couple of prepositions that can take three different cases. So epi can mean on in all three different cases, but in the dative it has more of the sense of upon, and the accusative has the sense of against. Para in the genitive can mean from, in the dative with, or the accusative beside. You will never have an object of the preposition in the nominative case. And just when you started getting used to always adding of to the genitive, when you see it in your translations, if the word has a preposition, you no longer need that of to help you understand the sense of the word. So when translating prepositions with the genitive, don't put in the word of. Likewise, don't do the same with to or for. So apo tes okias would be from the house, not from of the house. Now let's take a look at some of the forms you'll see these prepositions show up in. So prepositions in Greek can have some different variations depending on the words that come after it. Greek is a very auditory language, and so the sound of words was very important. For instance, here we have the preposition ek. Preposition ek has a kappa at the end, and kappa plus a consonant was a big no-no. So when kappa is added, is at the end of ek, and the next word begins with a vowel, like here we have anthropon, instead of ek anthropon, it becomes ex anthropon. And in the first example, ek nomo, it stays as ek because that's not a vowel. For the prepositions that end with a vowel, sometimes their ending will drop when the next word also begins with a vowel. So here, the word dia has dropped to just di epengelas. The exceptions to this would be peri and pro. Those experience no changes. And here's another example. So para becomes par, angelus, when added to this word that begins with a vowel. It's also interesting to note that these words will possibly lose their accent when they are pronounced with the following word. That's elation. And so you might look at this at the end and think, oh, it's got a breathing mark at the end. But that's not a breathing mark. That is just an evidence of contraction, similar to how we have contractions in English. For prepositions that end with a P or T sound, they will change as well. If an elided preposition's final letter is a pi or a tau, and the following word has a rough breathing mark, then the consonant of the elided preposition is going to change to its aspirated form. So a P goes to phi, as in af hemera, and the tau goes to theta, meth hemeras. So why do we need to know all of these? It's not so much that you probably need to be creating these and memorizing these rules, as much as you need to be aware of them. And when you come across some of these words, they're not going to look immediately familiar unless you know, oh, there's something that changed there. So work from the Greek to the English and see if you're able to get back to what word is happening there. So here are a summary of the changes. Apa can become ap or af. Dia can become di. Ek can become x. Ebi can become ep or f. Kata can become kat or kath. Meta can become met or meth. Para can become par. And upo can become up or uf. Now let's take a look at some of the compound verbs. We're familiar with compound verbs in English. Sometimes a preposition gets added to the beginning of a verb and it changes the meaning of it. So fill, to change that with back, becomes backfill. Uphold has a little bit different sense than just hold. Download has a different sense than just load. And the same can be true in the Greek. Prepositions can be added to verbs. Here we see eperotau, ubago, apokrinome, parakaleo, peripateo. And what's important to notice about these is that compound verbs are augmented after the prepositional prefix. So you won't see that eperotau happening in a change at the beginning, but you will see a lengthening happening there to show that the augment is in the word. Now let's take a look at how prepositions are used. Adverbial prepositional phrases can modify verbs. They answer the question where, when, how, why. So an example here, exelthein, ektu hiru. He went out of the temple. Adjectival prepositional phrases can modify nouns or other substantives. They answer which or what kind of. So an example, te doxein, te para, tu monon theo, the glory, which is from the only God. Prepositions can also follow an article, and at that point it's functioning like a noun. So ta'ein tokosmo does not mean the in to the world, it means the things in the world. And sometimes you have a preposition repeated after a preposition has been added to a verb, and so you don't actually need to additionally translate it, it's just there for style. So here we have pour ek porevetai ekto stomatos auton. The fire came out of their mouth. You don't need to add out again. And nouns and adjectives that follow prepositions are often considered definite, even if they don't have the definite article. So here, apau kurio, from the Lord. You add in the translation of the article, even though it's not there. There's an increased usage of prepositions in the New Testament time, and prepositions help to make the author's intent more explicit. So te, trite, hemera could be added with the preposition ein te trite, hemera, on the third day. And lastly, let's take a look at the vocabulary for this chapter. In Chapter 9, you'll be covering personal and relative pronouns, so our vocabulary this week will have those in it. Autos is the personal pronoun for he, she, it. It can also be used to mean self or same. Ego is the personal pronoun for I, whereas he, mes is the personal pronoun for we. Hos, he, ho are the relative pronouns, meaning which, who, that. Su means you, and humis means you in the plural. Then we have a lovely set of nouns. I always found nouns the easiest to memorize. Artos means bread, or it can mean food. Dikaiosune means righteousness or justice. Irene means peace. Exousia means authority, right, or power. Thalassa means lake or sea. And notice that thalassa has that double sigma, so you're going to see that kappa of the eta alpha switch. Laos means people or crowd. Hodos means way or road. And if you're looking at that thinking that might be a typo with the eta because the Omicron sigma is at the end, that is not a typo. It is a feminine word with one of those masculine endings, so be on the lookout for that. Oikia means home, dwelling, family, and is also a feminine word, whereas a masculine word, oikos, is house, household, or family, very similar. Ophthalmos means eye, and topos means place. This is chapter 8. You're doing great, and we'll have more in the next week.